I woke up before I ruined the girl who loved me. I woke up with the taste of smoke in my mouth. For a few seconds, I thought I was still dying. I could feel the basement floor under my cheek, cold concrete pressed against my skin. I could hear water dripping somewhere behind me, slow and cruel, like time had learned how to laugh. I could hear my own breathing, thin and broken, and then I heard her voice. Not loud, not dramatic, just soft enough to tear me open. Arlen, please stay awake. That voice had been the last thing I heard in my first life. Liora Vale had crawled across broken glass to reach me. Liora, the girl I had spent years pushing away. Liora, the wife I had called a burden in front of servants, relatives, and strangers. Liora, who had signed every divorce paper I threw at her and never once asked me why I hated her. She had been born with a spinal injury and used a wheelchair since childhood. I had treated that chair like proof that she was less than the women I chased. I had been young, stupid, proud, and poisoned by people who smiled while handing me knives. In my last life, I had loved the wrong woman. No, that was too gentle. I had worshipped a mask. Sienna Rowe, the brilliant girl from my university, had smiled at me like I was the center of her world while using my code, my money, and my family's company to build an empire with another man. My cousin, Cassian Thorne, had called me brother while he fed her every secret I told him. And Liora. She watched all of it from the quiet corners of our house. She watched me bring Sienna gifts. She watched me skip family dinners. She watched me call our marriage a cage. She watched me become the kind of man who could hurt someone every day and still think of himself as wounded. Then, when Cassian and Sienna no longer needed me, they locked me in the basement of an abandoned warehouse and waited for the fire to finish what their betrayal had started. Liora came for me. She came alone. She got me out before the roof fell. Then she went back for the documents that could clear my father's name. The ceiling collapsed before she returned. I remembered holding her hand while the ambulance lights painted her face red and blue. She looked so small under the blanket, so pale, so tired. And still, she smiled at me. "Don't cry," she whispered. "You never liked it when I made things messy." I wanted to say I was sorry. I wanted to say I had been blind. I wanted to say her name like a prayer, not like an obligation. But my lungs failed before the words came. So when I opened my eyes and saw the ivory ceiling of my old bedroom, I did not move. I stared. The chandelier was the same. The dark green curtains were the same. The faint crack on the wall beside the wardrobe was the same one I had punched into the plaster 6 years ago after my father forced me into the marriage. 6 years ago. My heart slammed against my ribs. I turned my head. On the bedside table was a silver-framed calendar. May 12th. The year was wrong. The world had moved backward. I was 21 again. And downstairs, if memory had not gone insane with me, my father was waiting with the marriage contract I had thrown at Leora's feet the first time. My hands started shaking. Not because I was afraid of death. I had already done death. I was afraid of seeing her alive. The door opened before I could stand. A maid peered inside, cautious as if approaching a sleeping wolf. "Young master, Mr. Hale is asking for you. Miss Vale has arrived." Miss Vale. Not my wife yet. Not my widow. Not the woman whose blood had dried on my hands. Alive. I moved too fast and nearly fell out of bed. The maid gasped, "Young master!" I ignored her and ran. I ran down the hallway barefoot, past portraits of dead Hales who had all looked more dignified than I ever deserved to be, down the stairs where I had once shouted at my stepmother, past the dining room where my little brother used to hide behind a chair when he saw me coming. Then I saw her. Liora sat in the winter garden, beside the glass wall where sunlight lay across the floor like water. Her wheelchair was simple, matte black, with a folded blanket over her knees. She wore a pale blue dress, hair pinned neatly at the back, hands resting in her lap. She looked younger than my memory, softer, lonelier. She turned when she heard me. For 1 second, her eyes brightened. Then she lowered them, as if she remembered she had no right to be happy that I had come. That tiny movement broke me. "Liora," I said. My voice sounded like it had been dragged through ash. She looked up, startled. "You can call me Miss Vale," she said quietly, "if that is more comfortable." More comfortable. She was already preparing herself to be rejected politely. In my first life, I had not even been polite. I had looked at her chair before I looked at her face. Then I had laughed. A cruel little laugh. A laugh that said my father could buy companies, votes, and silence, but not my obedience. I remembered her hands tightening in her lap that day. I remembered thinking it was none of my problem. I crossed the room. Everyone went still. My father was there, standing near the tea table with a face carved from disappointment. My stepmother, Mara, sat stiffly beside him, already afraid I would say something unforgivable. My little brother, Theo, only 6 years old, peeked from behind her skirt. And Leora's aunt, Delphine Vale, watched me with a guarded smile that did not reach her eyes. In the last life, I thought Delphine had been a desperate relative, trying to secure Leora's future. Later, I learned she had been the first person to sell Leora's research to Cassian. This time, I did not look at Delphine for long. Predators liked attention. I went straight to Liora. Then I knelt. The room sucked in a breath. Liora froze. I had never knelt to anyone. Not my father. Not my professors. Not the board members who treated my future like a chess piece. But I knelt in front of the girl I had left alone for 6 years and looked at her hands instead of her chair. Her fingers trembled. "Arlen," my father said sharply, "what are you doing?" I did not answer him. I looked at Liora. "Are you scared of me?" I asked. Her eyelashes fluttered. "No," she said too quickly. That hurt more than the truth would have. I lifted my hand slowly, giving her time to pull away. She did not. She only stared, confused, as if kindness from me was a trap with silk over the teeth. I touched the back of her hand with 2 fingers. She flinched. Not much. Just enough. A small, involuntary movement from a girl who had never been hit by me, but had already been wounded by my disgust. My throat closed. "Liora Vale," I said, each word rough. "I am sorry." The silence was immediate. My father looked like I had started speaking another language. Mara covered her mouth. Theo's eyes grew round. Delphine's smile twitched, but Liora only stared at me. "Sorry," she repeated. "Yes." For what? For the years I had not lived yet. For the mornings you waited outside my door with breakfast, I refused. For the nights you pretended not to hear me whisper another woman's name. For the day you sold your mother's necklace to save my father's company, while I accused you of trying to buy my gratitude. For dying because of me. I could not say any of that. Not yet. So I said, "For making you feel unwanted before you even entered this house." Her lips parted. Then she smiled a little. Not happy. Careful. The kind of smile people use when they think your guilt is temporary and do not want to disturb it before it disappears. "It's all right," she said. "This marriage was arranged. You never agreed to it." In my first life, that sentence had relieved me. Now it nearly destroyed me. I leaned forward and pressed my forehead to the back of her hand. "Don't say that," I whispered. She stopped breathing for a second. "Arlen." I agreed now. Her eyes widened. My father's cane struck the floor. "What did you say?" I looked over my shoulder. "I said I agree." Delphine's face sharpened. Mara began to cry silently. Theo whispered, "Is brother sick?" I almost laughed. Maybe I was. Maybe remembering your own death made sanity less important. My father stared at me for a long moment, searching for mockery. When he did not find it, his face changed in a way I had not seen since childhood. Hope. He had died in my first life believing his eldest son hated him. This time, I would not let that happen. He cleared his throat. "Then we will proceed." Liora looked panicked. "Mr. Hale, wait. Arlen may be emotional. We agreed this could be temporary. He can still go abroad after graduation. I will sign whatever he needs. I will not delay him." I turned back to her. Temporary. That word again. In my first life, she had lived inside that word. Temporary wife, temporary guest, temporary inconvenience, temporary shadow until I could run after Sienna. I took a breath. "Liora," I said softly, "I am not going abroad with Sienna Rowe." Her eyes changed. Only a little. But I saw it. So she already knew about Sienna. Of course she did. Everyone knew. I had never been discreet. I had wanted Liora to know. I had wanted the whole house to know I belonged to another woman. Cruelty is never accidental when you repeat it long enough. "That has nothing to do with me," Liora said. "It has everything to do with you." She shook her head. "You don't have to be kind to me because your father is watching." "I am not being kind." She looked hurt for half a second. I corrected myself quickly. "I mean, I am not performing kindness. I am choosing. There is a difference." Liora stared at me as if I had placed a living bird in her lap and asked her to believe it was safe. After the papers were signed, my father insisted we eat together. In my first life, I had left the table before the soup was served. This time, I sat beside Liora. No one knew what to do with that, especially Liora. She held her spoon but did not eat. Her bowl remained almost untouched, steam fading into the air. I noticed because I had spent 6 years not noticing. "Do you dislike mushroom soup?" I asked. She looked at me quickly. "No." "Then why aren't you eating?" "I will eat later." "Why later?" Her fingers tightened around the spoon. She glanced at Delphine. Ah, there it was. I remembered now. In my first life, Delphine had trained Liora to make herself smaller at the Hale table. Eat little, speak less, never ask for help, never look too comfortable, or the Hales would think the Vale family was greedy. I had believed Liora was cold. She had simply been taught that existing too visibly was dangerous. I took the bowl from in front of her. She stiffened. Before she could apologize, I swapped it with mine. Her soup had gone lukewarm. Mine was still hot. "Eat this," I said. "That one is cold." She blinked. Mara let out a tiny sound. My father pretended to drink water to hide his expression. Delphine smiled. Young people are affectionate so quickly. I did not look at her. "Not quickly," I said. "Late." The table went quiet again. After lunch, Liora tried to leave for the guest room. I stopped her wheelchair before she reached the hallway. "Where are you going?" "To my room." "Your room is mine." Her face went white, then red, then perfectly blank. That is not necessary. It is. Arlen, you don't have to force yourself. I'm not. Her eyes lowered. You always hated people touching your things. I remembered throwing away the shawl she once left on my chair. I remembered telling the maid to disinfect the room afterward. I had not even been angry, just casually cruel. The kind of cruel that sinks deeper because it has no heat. I crouched beside her. Then touch all of them. She stared. Use my desk. Open my books. Take my closet. Leave your hairpins everywhere. I don't care. You will care tomorrow. No. You always change your mind when you calm down. I did not know what to say to that, because in her memory, I did. So I said the only thing I could say. Then don't trust my words today. Watch what I do tomorrow. That was the first lesson of my second life. Apologies meant nothing to people you had trained to fear your moods. Only repetition could become proof. That night, Liora slept on the far edge of the bed, as if the mattress had borders drawn in law. She lay flat on her back, hands folded over her chest, eyes open. I knew because I was not sleeping either. Darkness pressed around us. In the first life, I had hated sharing space with her. I would leave before midnight, or sleep in the study, or return drunk enough to pretend I did not see her. Tonight, I was afraid to blink. Afraid I would wake again in fire. Afraid this was a dying hallucination. So I whispered, Liora. She answered immediately. Yes, you are awake. I did not want to disturb you. Breathing is not disturbing me. She went silent. Then very softly, she said, It used to. I closed my eyes. That hurt exactly where it should have. I turned toward her. She stiffened. I did not touch her. May I sleep closer? The question startled her more than any movement could have. Why? Because I am afraid. That was the truth. Her face changed in the darkness. Of what? Of losing you before I have the right to keep you. She did not understand. Not fully, but her voice softened. You drank too much today? No. Then why are you saying strange things? Because I have been stupid for a very long time. A small breath escaped her. It might have been almost a laugh. You are only 21. That was enough. I moved closer, slowly, until my shoulder was near hers, but not touching. After a long time, her fingers shifted across the sheet. Barely an inch. It was not an invitation. It was a question. I placed my hand palm up between us. She stared at it for so long, I thought she might cry. Then she placed 2 fingers in my palm. Nothing more. Just 2 fingers. But I felt it like forgiveness trying to learn how to walk. The next morning, I went downstairs early. Mara was in the dining room, arranging breakfast herself even though we had staff. In my first life, I had called her a servant in silk. I had hated her because she was not my mother. I had hated Theo because he had been born after my mother died, as if a child could be guilty of timing. I had hated my father for loving again. So many hatreds. So little intelligence. Mara looked up when I entered and nearly dropped the plate. Arlen, you're awake. I am. Do you want coffee? Eggs? I can ask the kitchen to make. Mother, I said. The plate slipped from her hand. I caught it before it hit the floor. Mara stared at me. Her eyes filled so quickly I felt ashamed again. What did you call me? I set the plate down carefully. Mother, if you will allow it. She pressed a hand to her mouth. My father had just entered from the hall. He stopped when he heard me. His stern expression cracked. Theo peeked around his leg. I crouched and looked at him. Good morning, Theo. He hid halfway behind my father. In the first life, Theo stopped calling me brother when he was 8, not because anyone told him to, because I had once shouted that I did not have a brother. He remembered. Children always remember the words adults throw away. "Do you want to sit beside me?" I asked. Theo shook his head fast. "No, thank you." So polite, so scared. I smiled. "That's all right. Maybe tomorrow." His eyes flickered. Maybe was safer than pressure. At breakfast, Liora came in last. She froze when she saw me seated with my family. In my first life, that had never happened after the wedding. I stood and went to her. "Good morning." She looked at the others as if asking whether this was a prank. "Good morning." I pushed her wheelchair gently toward the table. She placed her hands on the wheels to stop me. "I can do it." I released the chair immediately. "Sorry." Her face changed. She had expected me to be annoyed. Instead, I stepped beside her and walked at her pace as she moved herself forward. When she reached the table, Theo stared at the chair. Mara noticed and looked embarrassed. I said, "Theo, Liora likes strawberry jam." Liora looked at me. She did. I knew because in my first life, she used to eat it when she thought no one watched. Later, during her illness, it was one of the few things she could still taste. Theo grabbed the jar with both small hands and pushed it toward her. "Leora's sister can have this." Then he looked at me, terrified he had done something wrong. I smiled. "Good job." His face lit up so fast I nearly had to look away. Liora saw it too. Something in her expression softened. That morning, after breakfast, I offered to take Theo to school. Mara looked uncertain. Theo looked like someone had offered to feed him to wolves. I held up both hands. "No pressure. If he doesn't want—" "I want," Theo whispered. Everyone turned. He clutched his school bag like a shield. "I can go with brother." Brother. The word was small. It still hit like thunder. In the car, Theo sat rigidly in the back seat, hands folded on his knees. I glanced at him through the mirror. "What class are you in?" He blinked. "Blue class." "I mean, what school?" He looked confused. "Blue class." Right. He was 6. I was an idiot. I pulled over, took out my phone, and stared at it. I did not know my brother's school. I did not know his teacher. I did not know if he liked apples or hated them. In the first life, he had drawn a picture of our family once. I was not in it. I had deserved that. I called the house. Liora answered. "Arlen." "You knew it was me?" "No one else calls the landline." That was true. I laughed softly despite myself. "Can you tell me Theo's school address?" A pause. "You are taking him to school?" "Trying to. He says he is in blue class." From the back seat, Theo whispered, "I am." Leora's voice warmed before she could hide it. "I'll send it to you." She gave directions slowly, carefully, as if she was afraid I would get irritated if I missed a turn. I did not. I listened. When we reached the school, I unbuckled Theo's seatbelt. He froze when I lifted him down. "Is this all right?" I asked. He nodded so hard his hair bounced. At the gate, I knelt and fixed his crooked collar. "Listen to your teacher. Don't fight. Eat your lunch." Theo stared at me. Then, very quickly, he hugged my neck. A small, desperate hug. Then he ran inside before I could respond. I stayed there for a full minute. A teacher smiled at me. "First time dropping him off?" I nodded. "Yes." She laughed. "It gets easier." No, I thought. It gets less unforgivable. On the drive back, my phone rang. Cassian Thorne, my cousin. In the first life, I had trusted him more than anyone. He had called me brother while stealing my passwords. He had comforted me after Sienna rejected me. then went straight to her apartment with everything I told him. He had been the one to convince me that Liora's family wanted Hale money. He had been the one to tell me Mara was replacing my mother. He had been the one who stood outside the burning warehouse and watched the door. I let the phone ring twice. Then I answered. "Arlen!" Cassian said brightly. "I heard your father finally chained you to the wheelchair princess." My hand tightened on the wheel. In the first life, I would have laughed. This time, my voice was calm. "Say that again." He hesitated. "What?" "What you called my wife." A silence. Then he chuckled. "Come on. Since when do you care?" "Since now." "Are you serious?" "Completely." I pulled the car to the side of the road. "Liora is my wife. You will call her by her name or by Mrs. Hale. If I hear you mock her again, you will lose more than a family dinner invitation." Cassian laughed uneasily. "Marriage made you loyal fast." "Not marriage." "What then?" I looked at the bright morning beyond the windshield. "Memory." He did not understand. Good. Let him stay ignorant a little longer. He changed tactics quickly. "Fine. Fine. Sorry. I was just checking on you. Sienna asked about you." There it was. The old hook. In my first life, her name had turned me into a dog running toward a whistle. This time, I only smiled. "Did she?" "She feels bad about your situation. You should meet her. Clear the air." "Why?" "Because you love her." "No," I said. "I don't." Cassian went quiet again. I could hear his thoughts rearranging. "But you chased her for years." "People chase storms too. It doesn't mean they want to drown." He laughed, but it sounded thinner now. "I'll send you a place. Come tonight." "Sure." "Really? Really?" I hung up. Not because I wanted to see Sienna, because some traps were useful if you walked into them with your eyes open. Before going home, I stopped at a bakery. Liora liked chestnut cake. Another thing I had learned too late. I bought two. Then I bought a box of honey biscuits for Theo and a lemon tart for Mara, because she always pretended not to like sweets and always ate them when no one watched. When I returned, Mara was in the hall. She began fussing immediately. "Are you thirsty? Do you want—" I handed her the lemon tart. "For you." She stared. "For me?" "Yes." Her lips trembled. "You didn't have to." "I know." That answer confused her. Then it made her smile. I found Liora in the library, pretending to read. She turned a page upside down. I placed the cake beside her. Her eyes moved to the box. "What is that?" "Chestnut cake." "I don't like sweets." "You like this one." She looked up sharply. "How do you know?" "Because I once found 5 untouched birthday cakes in the trash, and only the chestnut slice missing from each. Because after you died, I went through every receipt in your drawer, trying to learn the woman I had lived beside. Because grief is a terrible detective." I smiled. "Guess." She did not eat it while I watched, so I stood. "I'll be in my room." I left the door half open. 5 minutes later, I heard the box move. Then the smallest sound. A bite. I leaned against the hallway wall and looked at the ceiling until my eyes stopped burning. That afternoon, I moved her things into my room. Not secretly, not as a punishment. With my own hands. Her books, her shawls, her medication, her hairbrush, her laptop with the silver cover, the small blue notebook she always kept hidden under a cushion. When Liora discovered her room half empty, her face went pale. "Where are my things?" "In our room." "Our?" "Yes." "Why?" "Because I want my wife near me." Her eyes searched my face for cruelty. Finding none only made her more afraid. "Arlen, if you are doing this to prove something to your father—" I'm doing it because I have wasted enough rooms. She did not understand. That was fine. I would spend the rest of my life translating. That evening, I went to my father's office with lunch. In the first life, Cassian had used my anger to force my father into a ruinous investment. He told me Mara's relatives were taking everything. He told me father would give Theo the company. He told me if I did not demand my inheritance early, I would end up with nothing. So I screamed. I threatened. I broke my father's trust until he sold the most profitable division of Hale Systems to cover Cassian's fake debt. That sale started the collapse. This time, I arrived before the poison spread. Father was in a meeting with my uncle by marriage, Roland Thorne, Cassian's father. Roland was crying. Not real tears. Business tears. The expensive kind. Brother, if you don't help me, creditors will destroy us. I may as well jump from the office roof. My father looked exhausted. I stood outside the door and listened. Roland sobbed about debt, loyalty, family, and my dead mother. He was good. I had fallen for this performance before. When he left, I waited 30 seconds, then entered with the lunchbox. Father looked up. Arlen, I thought you might not have eaten. Suspicion flashed across his face. He thought Roland had already reached me. That hurt. But I had earned his distrust. I set the lunch down. Uncle Roland came? Father's eyes narrowed. Did he call you? No. Then why ask? Because he will. Father leaned back. What do you know? I opened the lunchbox. That the wind farm project he mentioned is fake. The land permits expired last year. The invoices are inflated. And if you give him money, it won't repay creditors. It will move through a shell company owned by Cassian. Father stared. How could you possibly know that? I had watched it destroy us once, but I only said, I started reading. Reading what? Things I should have read earlier. He studied me. For the first time in years, he did not look at me as a reckless son. He looked at me as a possible ally. I took out a folder I had printed from public records that morning. Also, I found someone we should hire. Father frowned. Who? Nora Quinn, financial controls, top of her program, currently working under a fraudster who wastes her talent. In my first life, Nora had become Sienna's chief strategist. She was brilliant, ruthless when necessary, and loyal only to competence. I had met her too late. This time, I found her outside a cheap cafe after watching her slap her cheating husband in front of a taxi stand. She had looked at me like I was another rich boy offering insult disguised as opportunity. I told her Hale Systems would double her salary and give her authority. She laughed in my face. So I mentioned the thesis she wrote at 19 about recursive procurement fraud. She stopped laughing. She would come. I knew she would. Father read the name. You are recommending staff now? Yes. Your eye for people has not been impressive. In the first life, that would have started a fight. This time I smiled. True, but I am improving. Father looked at me for a long moment. Then he picked up his chopsticks. Sit. I sat. We ate together in his office. A small thing. A life-saving thing. When I returned home that night, Liora was waiting near the stairs. She pretended she was not. Her wheelchair was angled toward the window, but her eyes were on the door. I held up another box of chestnut cake. I came back. The words were simple. Her face changed anyway, as if she had been holding her breath since I left. I did not ask. I know. I wasn't waiting. I know. She reached for the wheel of her chair. I stepped aside, letting her choose. She rolled past me, then stopped. Did you eat? With father. Good. A pause. Then very quietly, Was the food warm? I smiled. Yes. She nodded and kept moving. That was Liora. She would not say she worried. She would ask about temperature. Over the next week, I became a stranger in my own house. Not because I did not belong, because I finally did. I studied at night. I helped Theo with his picture books. I asked Mara what she wanted, instead of assuming her only purpose was serving everyone else. I brought father documents instead of demands. And every day, Liora watched me like a person watching ice to see whether it would crack. Sometimes she softened. Then something frightened her, and she retreated behind that calm mask. Once, I kissed her cheek before going to class. She sat in the library for 3 hours afterward, touching the spot with her fingertips. Theo found her and asked if her face hurt. She nearly dropped her book. I laughed so hard from the hallway that she looked at me with betrayal. That night, she refused to speak to me for 10 minutes. It was the happiest punishment I had ever received. Then came the first real test. Cassian sent the address. A private lounge near the river. Sienna would be there. I showed Liora the message before she could find it by accident. In the first life, I hid everything from her. This time, I placed my phone in her hand. Her fingers tightened. You are meeting her? Yes. The light left her eyes. I sat beside her. Not because I want her, because Cassian is setting something up. You don't have to explain. I do. No, you don't owe me. I owe you everything. She looked away. You say things too easily now. Then come with me. She froze. What? Come with me. Watch. If I lie, you will know. Her face went very still. I don't go to places like that. Then we will go to a place you choose afterward. Arlen. Or don't come. But don't sit here imagining the worst alone. That struck something. Because that was exactly what she did. Liora had built entire prisons from things no one clarified. Finally, she said, I will not go inside. All right. I will wait in the car. All right. And if you do something foolish, I will leave. I smiled. Fair. She did not smile back, but she came. At the lounge, Cassian greeted me like a brother. He tried to guide me to the seat between him and Sienna. I sat across from them instead. Sienna wore a silver dress and the expression of someone who believed the room had been waiting for her to arrive. In my first life, I thought she was brilliant. Now I saw the calculations under the perfume. Arlen, she said softly, I was worried about you. No, you weren't. Her smile faltered. Cassian laughed. Still angry about the marriage? No. Then why so cold? Because I finally learned temperature control. They did not understand. That made it more enjoyable. Cassian ordered wine. I watched his hand. In the first life, he drugged me at a party and staged photographs with Sienna to destroy Leora's trust. I woke to headlines about my affair. Liora signed divorce papers the next morning. This time, when the waiter brought glasses, I switched mine with Cassian's while pretending to check my phone. Cassian did not notice. Sienna did. Her eyes flickered. Interesting. So she already knew. I lifted my glass. Cassian lifted his. To old love, he said. To old mistakes, I corrected. He drank. I did not. 10 minutes later, his face changed. He loosened his collar. Sienna looked alarmed. Not for him. For the plan. I stood. I should go. Cassian reached for my sleeve. Don't leave yet. I smiled down at him. You look unwell. Drink water. Then I walked out. In the car, Liora turned toward me. That was fast. I missed you. Her eyes narrowed. Don't use sweet words when you are hiding something. I blinked, then laughed. I could not help it. Her suspicion was adorable only because it was deserved. I handed her my phone. The recording was already saved. It showed Cassian and Sienna whispering before I arrived. It showed Cassian slipping powder toward the glass. It showed Sienna watching. Liora watched the video once, then again. When she looked up, her eyes were not soft. They were winter. Did they drug you before? I did not answer quickly enough. Her face hardened. They did. I handled it. No, she said. You survived it once. That is not the same as handling it. There she was. Not fragile. Not helpless. The woman who had built silent defenses around herself because everyone underestimated her. That night, she did not sleep. She sat in the study, fingers moving across the keyboard with frightening speed. In my first life, I learned too late that Liora was the anonymous architect behind half the security systems Hale Systems used. She had written code under a ghost name because she believed no board would accept a disabled girl from a fallen family. Sienna stole pieces of that code too. Not this time. At 2 in the morning, I brought tea. The screens showed bank routes, club CCTV, deleted university posts, shell accounts, and message logs. I stared. Liora. She did not look away from the screen. Your cousin is less careful than he thinks. You hacked all of this? I collected public and semi-public data. That is a very elegant way to say yes. Her mouth curved slightly. You like elegant lies when they protect you. No, I said. I like you. Her fingers stopped, then resumed too quickly. You should sleep. I tried. My wife was planning a criminal investigation without me. It is not criminal if no one proves it. I stared at her. She finally looked up. What? I smiled. Nothing. What? I just never knew you were terrifying. Her ears turned pink. I am not. You are. I am efficient. Terrifyingly. She looked back at the screen, but I saw the smile she tried to hide. The next morning, I asked Liora to move with me into a separate house. Actually, she had already bought one. That was the second thing I learned. The villa on North Hill, the one I had passed for years without thinking, had been hers all along. She had built it when she was 18. For me. Not because she expected me to love her, because she wanted me to have a place to rest if I ever needed one. I stood in the master bedroom, looking at the layout. It was almost identical to my old room. Same window direction, same dark wood shelves, same desk height, same reading lamp. Even the garden outside had white camellias. My favorite. I had mentioned them once on a survey for a school charity event. She remembered. A sob tore out of me before I could stop it. Liora panicked. Do you hate it? I can change everything. I should have asked. I only thought. I turned and pulled her into my arms. She went still. I held her carefully, as if she were made of glass, and I was the one most likely to break. You foolish girl, I whispered. Her hands hovered near my back, unsure whether she was allowed. I can change it, she said again. Don't change anything. Then why are you crying? Because I was loved in a house I never entered. Her breath caught. I lowered myself until my face was level with hers. Liora, listen to me. In this life, marrying you is the luckiest thing that ever happened to me. Her eyes filled. You don't have to. I do. I have to say it until you believe me. I may never believe you. Then I will repeat it for a long time. She laughed through tears. It was small. It was beautiful. It was the first sound in my second life that felt like something being repaired. For a while, happiness came in ordinary forms. Moving boxes. Theo visiting and declaring the guest room his future room. Mara sending too much food. father pretending he was not relieved. Liora and I eating noodles at midnight because I was hungry, and she claimed she was not, then ate half my bowl. She began to show little pieces of herself, her dry humor, her terrible habit of winning every argument by asking one devastating question, her fondness for crime novels, her jealousy, which she tried to hide and failed spectacularly. When a senior girl from class brought me a textbook I forgot, Liora watched through the security camera and spent the afternoon upgrading the entire villa system. That night, I asked why the hallway lights now scanned facial structure. She said, "For safety." Against textbooks? She ignored me. I kissed her cheek. She forgave me immediately and pretended not to. But enemies do not disappear because you begin to love correctly. They only lose the advantage of being unnoticed. Roland and Cassian tried their debt performance next. They invited me to dinner at their house. In the first life, I went there and returned with poison in my ears. I demanded father save them. I accused Mara of stealing my inheritance. I destroyed my own family because two relatives served me stale food and fake tears. This time, I brought a buyer. When Roland's wife, Vivian, placed wilted vegetables and dry rice in front of me, I widened my eyes with perfect concern. "Aunt Vivian, are things this bad?" She dabbed at her eyes. "We didn't want you to see us like this." Roland sighed. "If your father would help, maybe. How much do you need?" They exchanged glances. The fish had bitten. 180 million, Roland said heavily. I nearly laughed. In the first life, I never asked the number until later. Now the greed was almost artistic. I stood immediately. "Then we must all sacrifice." Vivian blinked. "What?" I looked around the room at designer bags, imported watches, antique wine, limited edition sneakers Cassian kept behind glass. "You said things were desperate. I know a luxury reseller. We can sell these tonight. It won't cover everything, but it will help with food." Vivian's face turned pale. No. Those old things are not worth much. Then losing them won't hurt." I took out my phone. "The driver is outside." For the next hour, I emptied their house with the sincerity of a saint and the joy of a demon. Vivian nearly wept when I packed her crocodile handbag. Cassian arrived halfway through and shouted, "What are you doing?" "Helping." "Those are mine." I looked wounded. "Cassian, your father may jump from a roof. Surely you can sell some shoes." Roland's face twitched. Vivian looked like she wanted to murder me with a dessert fork. I placed a hand on Cassian's shoulder. "We are family. We must endure hardship together." He had no reply, because that was the script they had written for me. I simply performed it better. When I left with 3 bags of luxury goods, I drove straight to Liora. She was waiting in the living room, not watching television. Waiting. I held up a chestnut cake box. "Wife, I am back." The word wife still made her blink. Then she smiled before she could stop herself. "Why are you so happy?" "I helped relatives in need." She looked behind me at the bags. "By robbing them?" "By encouraging liquidity." Her laugh burst out before she could hide it. I wanted to live inside that sound. Then the first public confrontation came. Vivian arrived at my father's house screaming. She accused Liora of seducing Cassian. It was absurd. So absurd I nearly admired it. Apparently, after the drugged lounge plan failed, Cassian and Sienna had ended up together in a private room. Vivian found marks on Cassian's neck and decided the only possible explanation was Liora. Because people like Vivian never blame their own children when a disabled woman is available. She slapped Liora before anyone could stop her. The sound cracked across the courtyard. For 1 second, the world went red. I caught Vivian's wrist before she could strike again. Mistake, I said. She tried to pull away. I am your aunt. And she is my wife. She is a cripple who… I tightened my grip. Her face twisted. Say that word again, and you will leave with fewer family privileges than you arrived with. She froze. In my first life, I let people speak that way. This time, the courtyard itself seemed to hold its breath. Liora sat behind me, one hand pressed to her cheek, eyes wide. Not because of the slap, because I had stepped in front of her without hesitation. I looked at Vivian. Why are you here? Your cousin was harmed. By whom? By her, I laughed once. Cold. Do you have evidence? My son said, your son lied. I took out my phone. The video played. Cassian and Sienna entering the lounge. Cassian pouring powder. Cassian drinking from the wrong glass. Cassian and Sienna stumbling into the private room. Vivian's face changed color 3 times. Father arrived during the video. Mara stood behind him, pale with anger. Theo clung to her hand. I did not want Theo to see this, but perhaps children should learn early that family without truth is only a prettier trap. Vivian recovered quickly. That girl, she said, eyes suddenly bright. Who is she? Greed. Always greed. I smiled. Sienna Rowe, top student in software engineering. Her family owns Rowe Properties. She may be worth more than your current debt. Vivian's anger became calculation so fast it almost clicked. Cassian never told me. Perhaps young love is shy. Leora's hand tightened around the armrest of her chair. I knew what she was thinking. Did I still care about Sienna? Did I praise her because losing her hurt? I would answer that later. First, Vivian had to kneel where she had struck. Apologize to Liora, I said. Vivian stared. What? You hit my wife in my father's house. Apologize. I will not apologize to… Then the Thorne family will no longer enter Hale property, use Hale introductions, or request Hale assistance. Vivian went white. Roland's debt was real enough now that cutting us off would hurt. She turned stiffly toward Liora. Sorry. Liora did not look at her. Accepted, she said. One word, colder than shouting. Vivian left with shaking hands and a new plan to marry Cassian to Sienna. Good. Let the snakes braid themselves together. That night, Liora was quiet. Too quiet. I found her in our bedroom near the balcony. Her cheek was still faintly red. I knelt beside her chair. Does it hurt? She moved my hand away. No. You are angry. No. You are lying. Her eyes flicked to mine. Did you know before today? About Sienna and Cassian? Yes. Her face tightened. For how long? A long time. Before we married? Yes. I watched pain enter her eyes. There it was, the wrong conclusion. You think I chose you because Sienna betrayed me. She did not answer. I took her hand. No. I chose you because I finally saw myself clearly. Sienna did not make me love you. Losing you did. She stared at me. I had said too much, but maybe truth did not need perfect timing. Losing me. I kissed her bruised cheek lightly. Someday I will tell you everything. For now, believe this if you can. There was never a moment in my life when Sienna gave me peace. You did, even when I did not deserve it. Her eyes filled. Then don't leave. I won't. If you leave, I may not be reasonable. I smiled. Liora Vale, I have seen what reasonable people do. I prefer you. She looked at me for a long moment. Then she leaned forward and kissed me. Not like the gentle touches before. This kiss was full of fear, anger, relief, and possession. When she pulled back, my lip hurt. I touched it. "Did you bite me?" She looked embarrassed for half a second. Then she lifted her chin. "You are mine." I laughed, breathless. "Yes." The next morning, Theo noticed the cut on my lip. "Brother, did you fall?" I choked on tea. Liora entered at that exact moment with a scarf covering her neck. Theo turned to her. "Leora, sister, why is your face red too?" Mara dropped a spoon. Father coughed into his fist. Liora sat calmly. "Cats," she said. Theo frowned. "We don't have cats." "We should get one," she said. I stared at her. She drank water as if she had not just committed social murder at breakfast. That was the day I realized my quiet wife had a dangerous sense of humor. Peace lasted 3 days. Then Liora found the university post. A poor scholarship girl named Elena Moss had been photographed giving me a tissue after I sneezed. The caption mocked her for trying to climb into a rich family. In the first life, that rumor spiraled. Elena died. Her brother later joined Sienna and Cassian, blaming me. This time, when I saw the post, my blood went cold. I ran to an internet cafe and started removing it. Every time I deleted one version, another appeared. Someone was fighting me. Someone better than me. I cursed under my breath and called Liora. "Are you busy?" "Why?" "I need help." Her voice changed instantly. "What happened?" "A post on the university forum. Someone is trying to destroy a girl. I can't keep it down." "Send the link. I'll bring you chestnut cake." She laughed softly. "You think cake buys me?" "No, but I like giving you things." A pause. Then very quietly, "Come home soon." "I will." I sent the link. 30 seconds later, the post vanished. Not deleted, erased, like it had never existed. At the villa, Liora stared at the screen. She had been the hacker fighting me. Not because she wanted Elena hurt, because jealousy had made her misread the situation at first. When she realized I was trying to protect the girl, she went silent for a long time. By the time I returned with cake, she had traced the first upload. Cassian. Of course. He had planned to use Elena's death as a weapon later. This time, we saved her, before the rumor grew teeth. Liora looked at me when I entered. "You helped her." She was innocent. I know. Her expression was strange. "Why are you looking at me like that?" "Because the old you would have ignored it." "I am trying not to be him." She reached for the cake, then stopped. "You are succeeding." It was the first time she said something like belief. I held onto it the way drowning men hold wood. Then came the night Cassian tried to finish his plan. He invited me to a karaoke club with Sienna. I went because Liora and I needed proof. Liora hated it. She tracked my location from the villa, her face calm and her eyes murderous. At the club, Cassian tried to put me between him and Sienna. I moved away. He tried to make us sing together. I refused. He tried to hand me a glass. This time, I saw the powder, but I also saw the waiter switch trays. Cassian had prepared a second route. I drank nothing. Still, after 10 minutes, heat crawled under my skin. My vision blurred. The room bent. The drug had not been in the wine. It had been on the rim of the glass I touched. Clever. Terrifying. I stumbled to the washroom and locked myself in a stall. Cold water did nothing. My skin felt too tight. My heart hammered. I called Liora. The moment she answered, I lost the last piece of pride. "Save me," I said. Her voice broke. "Where are you?" "Karaoke. Washroom. Please." "I am coming." The line went dead. I do not remember much after that. I remember the stall door shaking under my hand. I remember men shouting outside. I remember Leora's voice calling my name, sharp enough to cut through the fog. Arlen! I unlocked the door. She was there. Wheelchair in the doorway, hair loose from panic, face white with fear. I collapsed against her. I'm hot, I kept saying. Leora, I can't. She held me with surprising strength. I know. Look at me. I tried. Her hands were cool on my face. I am here. I kissed her neck because the drug made me stupid and desperate, and because some part of me believed her skin was the only safe place left in the world. She shuddered, but did not push me away. Then she covered my eyes with one hand. Don't look at me like that, she whispered, voice shaking. Not when you can't choose clearly. She brought me home. She put me under a cold shower. She called a doctor. Even when I begged her not to let the needle near me, she held me down and ordered the doctor to proceed. Her eyes were colder than steel. Her hands trembled afterward. When I woke hours later, clean and dry, shame crushed me. She sat beside the bed, asleep in her chair, head tilted awkwardly. There were bruises on her shoulder where I had bitten. My stomach twisted. I touched the marks. Her eyes opened instantly. Are you sick again? No, I am sorry. She followed my gaze. Then her face warmed. It is nothing. It is not nothing. It was not your fault. But it was your pain. She went quiet. I leaned down and kissed the bruise. Once. Then again. She stopped breathing. Does that help? I asked miserably. She stared at me, then pushed my shoulder. Sleep. I am trying to comfort you. You are making it worse. I froze. She realized what she'd said and looked away, ears scarlet. Oh. Oh. Despite everything, I laughed. She glared. I caught her hand. Leora. Don't. Do you want me? Her eyes lifted. There was no calm mask now, only hunger held back by years of fear. Don't ask questions you will regret. I won't. You might. I won't. That night, for the first time in both my lives, I chose her with a clear mind. And she chose me back. Not because of duty. Not because of pity. Because all the waiting, all the grief, all the almosts and never-saids finally found the same room. Afterward, she held me as if she expected someone to come take me away. No divorce, she whispered. No divorce. No Sienna. No Sienna. No leaving me abroad. No leaving. If you lie, I know, you'll become terrifying. She looked at me calmly. I already am. I kissed her. Good. The next morning, I could barely walk. Leora, however, sat at breakfast looking composed enough to negotiate a treaty. Theo pointed at my neck. Brother, did the cat come again? Father dropped his newspaper. Mara stood up and sat back down. Leora sipped tea. The cat is very loyal. I covered my face. My wife was going to kill me through embarrassment before any enemy could. While we were learning happiness, Cassian and Sienna were learning consequences. The drug meant for me had trapped them together in the private room after I left. Cassian wanted to deny everything. Sienna did not. She believed his reluctance was fear of family pressure. Vivian discovered the marks on Cassian's neck and immediately contacted Sienna. She thought she was securing a rich bride. Sienna thought Vivian approved of true love. Cassian realized too late that both women were more dangerous than the drug. They met in a cafe owned by Rowe Properties. Vivian tried to pressure Sienna into marriage. Sienna, offended but desperate to secure Cassian, agreed to discuss it with her family. Cassian called me that night, furious. What did you do? Many things. Which one upset you? You ruined everything. No, I changed the seating. You think you're clever now? No. I looked across the room at Liora, who was reviewing the evidence she had gathered. I married clever. Cassian hung up. The next move came from Roland. He tried to force father again by approaching the board directly with forged documents. This time, Nora Quinn had already joined Hale Systems. She found the irregularities in 4 hours. In 8, she traced the shell companies. In 12, she placed a full report on father's desk. Father read it in silence. Then he looked at me. You knew. Some of it. How? I said. I finally started listening to the people who wanted to protect us. His gaze moved to Liora. She sat beside me, hands folded, expression calm. Father understood more than I said. He turned to Nora. Proceed. Roland's project was frozen. Cassian's accounts were audited. Vivian's luxury goods, the ones I had collected, were sold legally to offset documented family loans. The Thorne family called it betrayal. I called it inventory correction. Sienna tried to distance herself from Cassian when she realized the Roe board might hear about the drugging incident. Unfortunately for her, Liora had already sent an anonymous compliance packet to Roe Legal. Not public, not cruel, precise. Sienna's internship offer disappeared. Her scholarship review reopened. Cassian learned what it felt like to be useful, only until inconvenient. He did not enjoy the lesson. 2 months later, Liora and I attended Father's board dinner together. In my first life, I had brought Sienna to a similar event and left Liora at home. This time, Liora wore a black velvet dress and a silver clip in her hair. I chose the clip myself, then spent 10 minutes pretending I had not been nervous. When we entered, some people looked at her wheelchair first, then at me. I stopped walking. The room noticed. I placed my hand on Leora's shoulder and said clearly to the host, "My wife, Liora Hale. Not Miss Vale. Not the arranged bride. My wife." She looked up at me. Her eyes shone. Throughout dinner, men who had once spoken over her began asking her questions, because my father introduced her as a consultant on our security architecture. They expected polite remarks. She gave them layered answers about risk systems, data integrity, procurement fraud, and behavioral prediction models. By dessert, half the table was terrified of her. The other half wanted to hire her. I was both. After dinner, Father raised a glass. To Hale Systems' new security division, led by Liora Hale and Arlen Hale. I stared. Liora stared too. Father looked at her. This family has benefited from your quiet work long enough. It is time your name entered the room. Leora's composure cracked. Just a little. I squeezed her hand under the table. She squeezed back. That was the moment I understood something. The second life was not only about correcting my mistakes, it was about giving names back to the people my blindness had erased. Mara, Theo, Father, Liora, even myself. Because the man I had been was not born evil. He had been lonely, spoiled, grieving, and stupid. But pain explained him. It did not excuse him. 6 months after I woke up, Cassian cornered me outside the university. He looked thinner, angrier, less polished. "You think you won?" he asked. "No. Liar. I think I delayed what you wanted to do to us." His mouth twisted. "Sienna left me. Smart woman. You made my mother force the engagement. You made Roe Legal investigate her. You made my father lose the project. You drugged me." He flinched. "You tried to frame Liora." He looked away. "You used Elena Moss as a disposable rumor." His face went pale. That one he had not known I knew. I stepped closer. "In this life, Cassian, I am going to be very clear. If you come near my wife, my brother, my mother, my father, Elena, Nora, or anyone else I choose to protect, I will not shout. I will not threaten suicide. I will not break furniture. I smiled. I will document you. For the first time, Cassian looked afraid of me. Not because I was stronger, because I was no longer stupid. That night, I told Liora almost everything. Not about rebirth. Not yet. But about the fire dreams, the basement, the fear of losing her, the certainty that Cassian and Sienna would destroy us if we let them. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she asked, "In your dreams, do I die?" I closed my eyes. "Yes." Her hand found mine. "And that is why you look at me sometimes like I am disappearing." "Yes." She was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "Then I will stay." I opened my eyes. She looked calm, determined, as if death itself had become a scheduling problem she intended to solve. "You cannot promise that," I said. "Watch me." I laughed and cried at the same time. She reached up and wiped my face. "Messy," she murmured. "You married me." "Yes," she said. "Questionable judgment." A year passed, then another. Hale Systems survived. No, more than survived. With Nora cleaning finances, Liora building security, father trusting data over relatives, and me finally studying what I should have studied the first time, the company became stronger than it had ever been. Mara began painting again. Theo stopped hiding when I entered rooms. Sometimes he burst into my office without knocking and demanded I explain algebra, even though he was too young for algebra and only liked the word. Liora learned to let people see her in public. Not always, not easily, but more. She spoke at a conference once. Her hands shook before she went on stage. Afterward, the applause lasted almost a minute. She looked at me from the podium. I mouthed, "My wife." She rolled her eyes, then smiled. Sienna left the country after the Roe board scandal. Cassian married someone his mother chose and spent his life blaming everyone else for doors he had locked himself. Roland was removed from every family partnership. Vivian still sent holiday cards. We framed none of them. And me? I stopped dreaming of the basement every night. Sometimes smoke still came. Sometimes I woke reaching for Liora. She always complained when I held her too tightly. She never moved away. On our 3rd anniversary, I took her back to the winter garden where I had knelt in my second life. The glass wall was bright with morning. Theo had decorated the room with too many flowers. Mara cried before anything happened. Father pretended something was in his eye. Liora looked suspicious. "You are acting strange." "I am often strange. More than usual." I knelt again. Her eyes widened. "Arlen, we are already married." "I know." "Then what are you doing?" "Choosing again." I took out a ring. Not the arranged marriage ring my father bought. A new one. Simple. Silver. Set with a dark blue stone the color of the sky after rain. "In another version of my life," I said, voice shaking, "I made you feel like a burden. In this one, you became my home. I don't deserve the first chance I got with you, let alone the second. But every day you stay, I want to choose you properly." Tears filled her eyes. That is too many words for a proposal. I am nervous. "We are already married," she repeated, crying now. "Then reject me dramatically. It will build character." She laughed. Then she held out her hand. "I accept again." I placed the ring on her finger. She pulled me close and whispered, "No divorce. No divorce. No running. No running. No dying in basements." I froze. She smiled through tears. "I am not stupid, Arlen. I know there are things you have not said." My breath caught. Do you want me to? One day. And until then, live this life well enough that the old one forgives you. I bowed my head into her lap. For a long time, neither of us spoke. Outside, sunlight moved across the garden. Inside, my family laughed quietly around us. The best revenge was not ruining Cassian. It was not watching Sienna lose the future she tried to steal. It was not seeing Vivian apologize through her teeth or Roland beg for meetings my father no longer took. Those things happened. I would be lying if I said they tasted bad. But the best revenge was smaller. It was Theo calling me brother without fear. It was Mara scolding me because I forgot lunch. It was father asking my opinion and actually waiting for the answer. It was Liora falling asleep with her hand in mine because she no longer believed love had to vanish by morning. The first time I lived, I thought freedom meant escaping everyone who needed me. The second time, I learned freedom was choosing who to stay for. And every morning, when Liora opened her eyes and looked at me like she still could not believe I was there, I kissed her hand and reminded her, I am not leaving. At first, she did not believe me. Then she believed me a little. Then enough. Then completely. And that was how I finally understood what love should have been from the beginning. Not pity, not possession, not a debt paid with guilt. Love was the person who saw the worst version of you, survived him, and still gave the better version a place to come home to. Liora once died trying to save me from a fire I deserved. In this life, she did not have to save me that way. She saved me by living.